someone or something in your life that has great meaning to you? Raise your hand. Excellent. That's what I thought. Remember, anything that has special significance in your life is worth sharing. My friend Bill called me a year ago last April. He called because he was so excited about writing his life letter. Bill is a physician with no children. He was finally getting the chance to share some of the family history and the life experiences that, quite frankly, he'd been running from most of his life. The very next day after Bill called me, he got into a freak accident playing pickleball, and he broke his neck. I went to go visit Bill in the neurosurgical intensive care unit a couple days later to help him finish what he had set out to do, to write his life letter. 2 days later, it was a Thursday night, Bill called me. He left me a voicemail, and he said, "Nancy, I'm having surgery tomorrow morning. I don't know whether I'm going to make it through the surgery or not, but I just want to say thank you because I said it all." Well, Bill made it through the surgery. He lost use of all of his limbs with the injury, and he spent many months at Craig Hospital doing intense rehabilitation. This is where this picture was taken. Fortunately, Bill has shown some improvement, but he's got a long and a tough road ahead of him. Life is so fragile. It is so, so fragile. And I know how fragile life is because this is my story too. My first husband, Brett, died of a brain tumor when our twins, Rebecca and Casey, were just 2.5 years old. This is among the last pictures we ever took as a family at Calvary Hospice in Bronx, New York. Brett died just a couple weeks later. This was a terrible time in my life, as you might imagine. And when at last Brett died, I have to say that his death was both anguishing and also merciful. After a few tough years of soul-searching and mourning, I decided to leave my New York City life and head west to Denver, Colorado to start again. If anybody had ever suggested to Brett or to me that he write a life letter so that someday our children would have a sense of who he was and what really mattered most to him, those words would have carried the kids through so many years. Those words would have been such an enduring gift, the most enduring gift imaginable. Those words would have been like gold. This is a picture of my twins pretty recently, and they're now 22 years old. So what's a life letter? A life letter is a written expression of what matters most that can be shared with loved ones today and over time, as well as one's community. Your family history, your precious memories, your values that are most important to you, and your wishes. The life letter is inspired by the ancient practice of ethical wills and legacy letters. This is a 3,500-year-old tradition that began with fathers passing on wisdom to their sons to carry into the next generation. In the Middle Ages, this became a written form, and there are many powerful examples of ethical wills and legacy letters written over the centuries. The life letter can be 2 pages, it can be 10 pages, it can even be a little bit more. It can be handwritten, it can be typed, it can be spoken. It is not, however, meant to be your entire life story. It's not your autobiography. It is a much more distilled reflection of what really matters most to you. It can also be used as a way to clarify legal estate documents. Think of the will or a trust as everything you want your loved ones to have, whereas a life letter is about everything you want them to know. And there's another difference too. A will is shared after a death. Ideally, the life letter should be shared during one's lifetime. So many of us wish we knew more about the people who came before us. just like my children. When you share your treasured stories, your wishes for the future, your history, you're making it possible so that someday a grandchild or a great-grandchild or someone from your community, your church, your synagogue, your mosque, your bird-watching group has answers to questions about your life, because your life matters, your story matters. And when we get to reflect on our lives in this sort of holistic, nuanced way, it builds self-acceptance, even a sense of self-mastery, and that lets you live with much greater clarity and purpose today. This is exactly what one of my students discovered when she wrote her life letter. She's a mother, a grandmother, and pastor of a very large congregation. But what surprised her most of all when she wrote her life letter was just what an incredible gift it was to herself. There are many benefits to writing life letters. In a landmark study led by Dennis Jaffe about the resilience of 100-year-old families, these are very multi-generational families, the research found that successful families who stayed together during good times and hard times, those families cared a lot less about the material wealth and the tangible assets that was passed on from generation to generation than they did about the quality of their relationships. What they valued far more than material wealth was the kinds of connections and sharing and growth and learning that took place. And that is exactly what a life letter can do. I think the best way for you to appreciate just how creative and unique life letters can be is for me to share a few examples with you. Life letters can be written as recipe books, as a poem, as a playlist, as a short story. I want to introduce you first to Enid. Enid is a grandmother of 6 fantabulous grandchildren whom she calls the dessert of her life. So when Enid was reflecting on some of her formative years, which were challenging, she wanted to find a way to share a little bit about what she had learned with her grandchildren. And she thought of happier times when she read the Berenstain Bears book collection to her children and then to her grandchildren. And she realized that would be the way to share a little bit about what she's learned along life's journey.
As a child, I could never have imagined that I would look back and see the person I've become, the life I've lived, the lessons I've learned. Some of those lessons we've talked about together while reading Berenstain Bears stories. In one of the books we learned they went over, under, around, and through. In another, we learned about the truth. In yet another, we learned about the gimmies. When I was a child, I had to find ways to go over, under, around, and through lots of obstacles.
I think it's fair to say that most of us have had to find ways to go over, around, under, and through lots of times in our lives. Next, I want to introduce you to Rebecca. Now, Rebecca is a mother of 2 grown children, but she chose to write her life letter to humankind. She learned a powerful lesson at a young age that has stayed with her her entire life, and she wants the world to hear it. I couldn't agree more. You don't need to have a traumatic life or a dramatic life to write a life letter. Take a slice of ordinary life and give it universal meaning. And let me share just a little bit about my life letter that I wrote to my children, Rebecca and Casey. I want them to have the confidence and the resilience necessary to forge forward when life gets hard. I wanted them to learn a little bit about what I've experienced along life's journey, what I regret, and what I really wish for them for the future. I decided to create my life letter using these 4 universal buckets. I believe in knowing where you came from allowed me to share a little bit about some of the family history from their biological dad and some of the incredible people who have shaped our lives and the traditions we had. It also let me share about some of my own family and our traditions and rituals and some of the people who have really been there for us in our lives. I believe in a good meal. Well, yes, I do, but believing in a good meal is so much more than just the food on the plate. It's about the creativity and the love and the nourishment that goes into planning that meal. It is about sitting down together with people you care about and making meaningful conversation and making memories. And believing in a good meal is even sometimes about working things out because everything tastes better with a good meal. I believe in living life to the fullest. If there is one thing that I have learned from my life experience and from my friend Bill, it's exactly this. Every single day is a gift. Every day that we're alive and healthy is an opportunity to make the moments count, to really make it count. And finally, I believe in kindness. Now, I could have written about any number of virtues or values, but kindness to me is the one that sails above all the others, because kindness continues to bring me the most incredible gifts, so many of which are unexpected. I plan to give Casey and Rebecca my life letter when they graduate college next spring, because I really see this as a cause for celebration. So, what about you? Who would you write your life letter to? To family today and yet to come? To those whose lives you may have touched? To humankind? What would you say? Has your life been shaped in one direction perhaps more than another? Maybe something career-related or family or health. So if you're scratching your head thinking, I have absolutely no idea where I would start this process, how do you write a life letter? I want you to know you're in the majority. So let me help you out. I want to teach you a technique called clustering, which is something that we use in guided autobiography. Now, guided autobiography is an evidence-based curriculum that was developed at the University of Southern California as a way to help people reflect on meaningful life experiences 2 pages at a time. Clustering is essentially non-linear brainstorming. So if the life letter is the centerpiece of your life, the essence of who you are and what you believe, what are some of the core spokes that emanate from that central place? Who are the people that have impacted and shaped your life? What is the family history that is most important to you to pass along? Remember, you are not writing your biography. You are not writing 300 years of your family. You are not doing a genealogy report. This is a much more distilled reflection. What are some of the traditions and the rituals that you really value? Has your family perhaps celebrated Thanksgiving together for 40 some odd years? Have you been part of a hiking group or a book group for 20 plus years? What are you passionate about? Do you like to bake sourdough bread? Do you like to fly fish? Do you like to paint? All of these interests and hobbies can be woven into the fabric of the life letter to make it authentically yours. What do you regret? Regret is part of the human experience, and it's an important thing to be able to share in your life letter, especially if you've learned something from those regrets. What do you value? And finally, what do you wish for? What do you really wish for the people you're leaving this life letter to? Be specific. Please don't let perfection stop you from writing your life letter. Perfection can be the enemy of the good, and good is enough. If you write your life letter at 55, and let's say your life changes in a couple years, that's okay. All you need to do is just write a new page. All you need to do is just amend your life letter. This is my life at 60. This is my life letter as a retired person at 65. This is my life letter at 70 when I've become a grandparent for the first time. This is my life letter at 80 when I've taken up boxing and I decided to run a half marathon. Life is going to change. This is a given. Chances are that even if your circumstances change in life, your values and your priorities are not going to change. Allow yourself to move with the current of life. Let yourself go forward and keep putting yourself in the path of opportunity. I'd like you to meet my husband, Steve, of 15 and a half years. Steve and I blended our families and our lives, and here we are with our not such young children anymore. I absolutely plan on amending my life letter because my story is still being written, and so is yours. Just don't wait to share it. Don't wait to share what matters most right now. Thank you.